Hello! How's it going?
Welcome
Long
to...
time no see. 1 week.
Yeah. It is for me.
I haven't done it in 2 weeks.
Two whole weeks, and I haven't done it in ages.
just
Welcome
been-
to Ask a Reporter.
Yeah.
I'm Matt.
Welcome. I'm Amelia.
And Nathan is not here today.
Yes, if you've noticed, this isn't Nathan.
He's absent, yeah.
Yeah.
Slightly different.
He's a bit sick today.
Yeah, Nathan's not well, so we hope
Poor
Nathan
thing.
gets better very
Yeah,
soon.
if you're watching Nathan, we hope you get better. I mean,
Yes.
he wouldn't be. That would be
No,
weird.
he might be, but he
might
should be resting
Maybe he's
up.
seeing how well you do as him, so he might be at home
Hopefully
just-
it goes okay, so be really nice to me.
At some point in this, you need to do a Nathan Baisley impression. Like, it just has to be done.
No, I like doing those. They're my
Yeah.
favourite thing to say. Hi, I'm Nathan Baisley. Welcome to Behind the News. He doesn't talk like
That's
that.
quite good because you get a bit more like up and,
Yeah,
you know,
you feel
professional.
like a real life
Anyway.
presenter. Sorry for rambling.
Sorry
on
guys,
that,
we're both ramblers, so
Mm.
expect a lot of rambling
Yeah.
this Ask a Reporter. but
Apologies for that.
Apologies in advance, but thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, and we are very happy to be here to answer your questions.
So,
And
I have to cough. I'm always coughing in Ask a Reporter. I'm so sorry. It always happens.
that's okay.
But
As
you
long
know
as it
what we're
goes so
talking
far.
about today? We are talking about my story on model laws.
Yeah.
So this, just to give you the gist, I'm sure you guys watched it, but just so you know, the story was about some changes to the way, to the modelling industry and the fashion industry in France in particular, where the government has brought in new laws which basically say that if models are proved to be an unhealthy weight, so unhealthily thin, then they're not actually allowed to work. And if the people who they work for don't ask for a doctor's certificate to prove that they're a healthy weight, then those people also, they end up getting in trouble and can even end up in jail or with massive fines. And they also made another change, which is actually to advertisements. So that's all these any kind of commercial stuff like pictures in France. Basically now they have to put at the bottom in French, because it's France, they'll say that the photo is digitally retouched. So that's kind of meant to basically stop ad agencies and people who make these ads from altering models' bodies to make them look thinner, which is something that unfortunately happens. So it's kind of trying to make things just a little bit healthier, and so it's also about making, like, not just for the models who feel like, a lot of models have said before, and they're quite young as well, have said that they kind of feel a lot of pressure to be skinny. And to be able to get work. So that's a pretty common thing, and it's a bit of a problem, but it's not even just for them. It's also for like people who look at these pictures all the time, and they are everywhere. Like, you guys would know, I see pictures everywhere, you know, it's not just even in magazines, it's on TV, it's in movies. Like, there's always kind of that fashion industry where a lot of the time women are expected to be really skinny, and also a lot of these ads are often aimed at young people, so you know, these music videos and all these sorts of things which influence a lot of young people. So that's why they're doing it.
So it's a really big issue. Do you know what the response has been like? Is it mostly positive? What do people think of it?
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure because unfortunately I don't live in France. We'll be going there soon actually on a holiday, but anyway, so I'll tell you after that.
Okay, cool.
But yeah,
waiting.
There's
the
doing
answer.
to do. She's coming back soon. Nathan will be back by then.
That's true. I'll be gone.
But yeah, so I don't know the exact response, but from what I've read, I think it seems to be quite positive. I think it's a change that they wouldn't have done if they knew, the government wouldn't have done if they knew that it was going to be extremely unpopular, because most of the time, if it's a change of this kind of sort, it's because it's a popular idea and something that people want. But there was originally, I think, a little bit of anger or a bit of, you know, like people weren't extremely happy on the modelling agency side of things, and from the advertising side of things. But I think that was before they sort of worked out the details. So long story short, this was kind of started in 2015 that the government in France first mentioned this, around that time. And at first they said they were going to do something which is kind of complicated, but they were saying, I don't know if you guys have heard of it, but there's a thing called BMI, and that's body mass index. Am I right?
Yes, you are.
So body mass index, just to sum it up, is kind of where you compare, or a doctor compares your height with your weight. And so they sort of have like an index which tells you then if you are this age, this height, this weight, you should be either, this means you're either healthy or you're unhealthy or you're perfectly normal. And so the problem is with that is that it's not everyone believes that's okay, because some people are just naturally super skinny and it's not their fault. Some people tend to be naturally bigger. So a lot of people said that that wasn't a great way to measure it, because the French government said at first that that was how they wanted the models like to be able to work it out. So they'd have to go to a doctor, and that doctor would have to say, okay, your BMI is fine. So that was, I think, the big problem. They were like, that's not really the fairest way to do it. So they've sort of changed it a bit now. So mostly the doctor, it's fair to more people, and mostly the doctors actually just have to now judge, you know, from knowing a patient, I suppose, and, you know, they might weigh them, etc., or check their height, but it doesn't have to necessarily be the BMI. And so I think most people now kind of accepted this in France from what I've seen.
Well, you know what? I was asking that question just because I was genuinely curious.
Oh, yes.
Actually,
what do you know?
That's the exact same question that Gus from G56 Hillside has asked. So way to go, great minds think alike.
Well done,
who said,
Gus.
What do the French people think about this new law? So really...
Oh, there you go. I hope I answered that,
great.
Gus.
We're thinking the same things.
Great friends.
Yeah, well done.
Good
question.
question.
I have another question now from Elabella, who says, what can a model suffer from if they are too skinny?
Yeah, okay, good question. So there are lots of things. It's you know, basically, it's, as you probably know, it's a bad thing to not eat enough. It's bad for your body. It's extremely unhealthy. So if you are trying to starve yourself to get thinner, lots of different medical problems can come from that. A lot of models often suffer from what they call eating disorders, which are pretty terrible. So it's kind of just where you aren't eating properly, and your body really suffers from that. And you can have a lot of different problems. So it's really just overall bad.
So
it's
you
really
have things
bad. Your
like...
body needs nourishment.
Yeah, it needs nourishment, it needs nutrients, and if you have deficiencies, it can make you really sick. It can make it harder to do things like fight off colds, for instance. So just day-to-day life can be a lot harder. You have no energy, you won't feel motivated, and sometimes people who are really skinny might think, well, because I'm thin, I don't have to exercise as much, or I might be able to eat whatever I want, and those things aren't true. So there are lots of problems that can come with people who are unhealthily thin.
Absolutely. So even if you're really skinny, it doesn't necessarily mean that you are healthier than someone who might be bigger. It's you know, it's all what's happening inside you that really counts. So yeah, there you go. But good question.
Hank wants to know, are there any other countries where it's illegal to have skinny models? Is France a trailblazer in this regard? No,
actually. So I did mention in my story, there are 3 other places that also have similar laws. So that's Spain, Italy, and Israel. So that's quite interesting, really. It's quite a strange selection, but I suppose they just have found that they had issues and they have got ahead of the curve, you know, and just gone ahead and made those laws already. So I don't know exactly what their laws entail, but I think it's quite a similar thing. So if a model is too skinny or deemed too skinny by a doctor, unhealthily skinny, then they're not allowed to work. So that, it's quite interesting. I mean, Italy in particular is another sort of big fashion country. So a lot of young models also end up in places like Milan in Italy to work. And so that might have been part of the reason that they also did that. But like I said in my story, France is a kind of the one that we're talking about, especially because France is such a fashion capital of the world, Paris is. So it's really like a big change for somewhere where you get models going from all over the world. So you get heaps of Australian models, you get models from America and England and all these different countries, and they all often end up in Paris, and that's where they get their start. That's kind of where you really get your big break. So it's important, I think, and that's what the government thinks there, that that this kind of message is starting from the fashion capital, or is at least being pushed further from there. So
Cool.
Good question.
And good answer.
Oh, thank you.
I feel like we're doing so well today.
We're doing so well.
There's
Tell
no
Nathan.
Also from Hillside, Leah says, can a model be too oversized? Does the same rule apply to a model who may be overweight and unhealthy?
You know what? That's actually a very interesting question. And no, not that I know of. I don't believe that is actually necessarily a thing. I guess what you have to think about here is, I love that question because it's such a like, you know, you wouldn't necessarily think about it, but it makes so much sense. I totally see where you're thinking there, because if it's someone can be unhealthily skinny, they can also obviously be obese, unhealthily overweight. But what you have to remember here is there is a plus size modelling industry in France as well, and all over the world. So there are a lot of models who might be even just like quite normal sized, or a bit bigger than the average person, and so that's a whole nother industry. But also the thing is with the general fashion industry and general kind of mainstream modelling is that most models are thinner. So the thing is that you probably don't encounter that problem of going, look, you are too big as often, because they probably are less likely to actually get into the industry in the first place.
The real reason, I guess, for this is because clearly people have singled it out as being a problem for a long time, there being lots of models who aren't healthy and are dangerously skinny, and they want to do something about it. So there's a problem that they can see that there is in the industry, and they're responding to it. So they're not just
and it's really towards that side of the scale. If we were talking about, you know, the skinnier people and bigger people, it's really the problem is over here. So but a very good question. I like your thinking.
Yeah, well done. Well, that basically wraps up our questions for this Ask a Reporter topic. So I feel like we've done well. You've done well.
Send in any more if you can think of any.
Yeah, absolutely. But so for next week, next week's Ask a Reporter, we have another really big topic that we're going to be talking about, right? I believe that we do. And Amelia, you might be
it's me again.
Responsible for that one. So the 1967 referendum.
Yes, 1967 referendum. So I don't know if you guys know much about that, but it was a pretty, you know, significant time in Australia's history. Basically, to sum it up, you'll see in my story next week, but it was a time when the 60s were kind of a time when there was a big sort of movement towards Indigenous rights and demanding that Indigenous people in Australia be treated the same as other Australians. And so one of the things that came about from that was a big move to change the Constitution, which is that, you know, big legal document, the most important legal document that we have, that basically says what the government can do and what the states can do and things like that. And so that to change it is quite difficult. But yeah, they managed to change it, and that meant they changed a couple of lines in the Constitution which were discriminating against Indigenous people. So yeah, that's a bit of a history story for next week. So if you think of any questions you have,
so tune in, watch the story, obviously. Do some research so you're prepared and you have some questions and know a bit about it already. That does wrap things up.
That sums us up.
It
was a short one.
It was a good one. Thank you so much, guys.
It was short and sweet. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys.
So next time I won't be here probably. It'll almost certainly be Nathan.
Hopefully not, because that would mean Nathan was still really sick.
So we're hoping that Nathan's going to be much better. So you can look forward to seeing Nathan next time. But it's been
maybe
good to
you'll
see
be
you
in
guys
my
again.
seat next week.
I don't think so.
No, probably not. Sorry.
But anyway,
see you guys. Hope you have an awesome
weekend.
Time. See you next time.